You are listening to Claret and Blue, an Aston Villa podcast brought to you by Birmingham Live.
Hello, welcome back to the Claret and Blue podcast. My name is Dan Rowlands and I'm joined by a special guest this afternoon. It's Villa on Tour's Max Stokes in the lovely black shirt this season's kit. Max, how are you, mate? You okay?
Yeah, not too bad, mate. Thanks for having me on. Let's chat some Villa then, because it's a little bit interesting this start to the season, isn't it? So, yeah, thanks for having me on, mate.
Yeah, interesting is one word for it. I think in the first question I've got for you, I've described it as a bumpy start. Just trying to be kind there, probably. We're going to do a little Q&A. So this is an exclusive Facebook Live episode. So anyone who's watching this live on Tuesday afternoon, put a question to Max and I'll flash them up on screen and ask them to him. Keep the language clean though, so I can actually show them on screen. I've got a couple of questions to start off with while people join the stream. We'll start in order really. Before we talk about the start of the season, let's talk about the transfer window. Obviously Villa did a lot of business early doors and some business late doors, which was probably unexpected at one stage. How do you assess the kind of transfer window overall if you had to grade it out of 10, let's say?
Oh, out of 10, probably 6.5. Pretty bang average, I think. I mean, if it wasn't for deadline day, I think I'd probably give it a 5 or a push 6. I think we definitely had to do something on deadline day, didn't we? I think we've all been crying out for a midfielder for so long. And then Donker, I'm happy with it, to be fair. I'm really happy to see what he can do. I thought he might have come in against Man City. Obviously, there's some sort of injury there, but I think he's the type of player that we've been crying out for a little bit. And I think if you put him next to Kamara, there's a different option there in terms of playing two of them deep rather than just Kamara on his own, because he struggled a bit on his own this season. But yeah, apart from that, it seems like ages ago, doesn't it? Coutinho, Carlos and Kamara. But no, pretty happy with it, mate. Could have been better, could have been worse. Pretty average.
When we spoke about it on deadline day, even I think we all settled for a 5 or 5.5 out of 10. I said at one stage when Villa signed Carlos and Kamara in about a week of each other, I was like, let's not faff around on deadline day. We don't want any nonsense at the back end of the window. Let's get it all done early. And then, like I said on that, we only participated in the window for about 7 days, 2 or 3 at the start and 3 or 4 at the end. And that was basically it. We kind of missed out the whole middle section. Your new signing centre-back gets injured on first home game of the season, you do have to act, don't you? And it's right that the club did what they did, I think, and now you have to back the players and hope that they get the best out of the players that were there already as well, don't you?
Yeah, I'm pretty happy that we've got enough players in each position now. It was a bit, I thought the whole Sarr thing was very strange in terms of, Bailey's our only out-and-out winger with Sol Traore, El Ghazi, Trezeguet, etc. And we were going for Sarr. Does that say that he's going to change the system, or is it just an option to come off the bench? I'm not sure. I thought that was a bit of a strange one, and then obviously that fell through. But no, all in all, pretty bang average. I'm happy with it, I guess.
Yeah, difficult start to the season given the fixtures we've had on paper. You kind of look at it and think, we might be on 7 or 9 points with the first 3 games. What a start that'll be, and didn't think quite materialised that way. You've been to every game. I'm pretty sure you have. Filming obviously for the Villa on Tour YouTube channel, which I'll stick a link to below. But I mean, if anyone doesn't know who you are at this point, then I'd be surprised. You've been in the stadium. You've seen every minute of football. How have you assessed that start for us?
Minus Saturday, it's been absolutely terrible. Absolutely terrible, I think. There's no dressing up. There's not, unfortunately. It's just the fact, if people watch my videos, it's rinse and repeat, isn't it? Every single game, just no identity. Exactly. So that's why Saturday was so refreshing and nice, because it was nice to be positive and say something good and be proud about the team rather than just sounding like a broken record and no identity each week and no player know what they're doing and nobody knows where they need to be. No fan in the stadium doesn't know what we're trying to do. So yeah, it wasn't great at all. And like you said, on paper, those starts to the season, there was winnable fixtures in there, and Crystal Palace and Everton sides you'd want to push on and be ahead of this season, but just not materialised, and it's been disappointing. I just hope that Saturday can be that turning point that we all hope it can be, because it was very, very impressive. Gerrard in all of the games that he's played against Man City, he seems to know what he's doing. Okay, we collapsed on the final day last season, but up until sort of that weird 5-minute spell, we did really, really well. So he's shown there that he knows what he's doing and he can set up sides well. It's just bizarre in games like Bournemouth and Palace. We look absolutely horrible. So, yeah, I don't know. I think hopefully, like I said, it's a turning point. And I'm not going to say winnable games because Leicester have got decent players, but we need to capitalise on their form now and put the nail in the coffin for Rodgers. And that's our next game. If we can win that and then, get a decent result against Southampton, you're going into that international break in a good place. And hopefully, like I said, we can turn this season around because I think it's much needed.
Perfect timing here. A question from Sean Finnegan, who asks, how many points do you think we'll get out of those next 4 games? Darren Bent highlighted this on TalkSport earlier this morning or last night, that Villa need to win 2 out of those 4 games to save Gerrard's job, I think was the phrase he used. So Leicester City, Southampton, Leeds and Forest, those Leeds and Forest after that international break. How many points do you think we need from those to, kind of kick on now?
I think you want to look at 2 points per game if you're being optimistic. So let's go 7 or 8 points, I'd say. I think Leicester, you've got to win that. You've just got to go in there and take them to the sword and just absolutely, like I said, put the nail in the coffin for Rodgers. Southampton at home on a Friday night. I'm sure Friday nights are always pretty lively at Villa Park, so that should be a winnable game. And then just see what happens over the international break if we sort ourselves out. And Leeds are a bit of a hit and miss side, so I don't really know what to make of them. And then Forest had a few decent results at the start of the season, but lost at home to Bournemouth. So I don't know. Yeah, 2 points a game. I'll probably take that, and hopefully we can hit a bit of form. 7 or 8 points, I'll go with.
I saw somebody say, you've got to win the next 2 games, Leicester and Southampton. Leicester away, is, as much as they're bottom of the league and they've not had a good start and it all looks a little bit stale there, it's still not an easy game. I mean, there's no easy game in the Premier League. Southampton should be winnable, like you say, as a home game. You target every home game. You've got to get something at home, as a good foundation. Leeds, 50-50 toss a call, and they could be brilliant or terrible.
Exactly.
And even Forest, to a lesser extent, I've watched them a couple of times and thought, they do look half decent, but throwing away a 2-0 lead to Bournemouth the other day, you think,
let's get a clean sheet. That's what I want. I just want a clean sheet. It's been.
I said that before Man City. I was like, can we just get Aston Villa 0 before anything else?
Exactly.
I don't care about anything further for than that. Don't concede as a good base first.
Exactly. Back to basics. That's what you've got to do. Because that's what Gerrard did when he came in, wasn't it? We were hard to beat, and we absolutely lost that at the start of this season. So
we lost it at the back end of last season as well. We looked resolute, and you kind of had these short little passing triangles, and you thought, right, they're going to be compact and sit in. There's always been problems when we were asked to break a side down, and the onus is on us. But when we can sit back on the counter attack and soak up the pressure, we do look like a half decent side with Watkins and Bailey with a bit of pace up there. I thought Watkins was really good against Man City, by the way. It's how do you then break teams down when you have got to go and do that, which we have probably got to go and do in the next couple of games, and that's where we might struggle potentially.
That's what frustrated me about Gerrard. He seemed to regress because we like we said when he first came in, we were hard to beat, and we absolutely lost that. And like we just said then, we don't know why. So that's what frustrated me. The reason Smith got sacked was because there was no progression, and it absolutely seemed up until Saturday that Gerrard was going the same way, if not backwards. So I keep saying it. Let's hope it's a turning point, but proof's in the pudding, isn't it, really?
Yeah, Matt Smith says that the only way is up. I totally agree. And Ian says win against Leicester, draw Southampton, draw Leeds, and win against Forest. I mean, unbeaten in 4 would be a real statement of going forward, and that Man City was the turning point. We hope it was. Question from Scott. He says same lineup as Man City game. Cheers, lads. Thanks for watching, Scott. Thanks for your question. What do you think about that lineup against Man City?
I thought Ramsey did well. I thought he's been a little bit disappointing for a while, Jacob Ramsey, unfortunately. But there's a player there. You don't lose it, do you? And I think he's been our, probably in the last 12, 18 months, he's been our brightest player in terms of the way he carries the ball, and no one else can really do that. So no, I liked it, actually. I really did like it. I was a little bit sceptical going into the game, but it proved to be the right decision. But against the Leicester side, where it's obviously not going to be the same type of game as Man City, I'm not sure. But who do you bring in? Is Gerrard going to do the thing where he plays Coutinho or Buendia? I'm not sure. I'd probably keep it the same. Why would you change a winning team? I don't know. I'd keep it the same personally.
A winning team, steady on.
Oh, yeah. So it felt like a win. I don't know.
Charlotte says, lots of fans have said McGinn needs a rest. Thoughts? John McGinn's a difficult one. Just his performances, first of all, on the pitch. What have you made of him in the opening 6 games? Yeah,
not good enough. It's not good enough from John McGinn, and it says it all when Gerrard's taking his captain off. We all thought when he got given the captaincy, that means that McGinn's going to play 90 minutes of every single game. But McGinn has been disappointing, and I don't like singling players out, but it's a fact he has been disappointing, unfortunately. But it's annoying because we know there's a player there, and I just think, when we brought Kamara in, the question was, is McGinn going to be given that licence to go forward like he does for Scotland and score goals? Because that's one thing for me as well. McGinn doesn't score enough goals or get involved going forward. So I don't really know what he is. And yeah, he has that lapse of concentration where, he won't pass the ball to the right player, or he'll make a stray pass, or lack of control. I don't know. I think he's been disappointing for a long time, really. And that's why I was crying out for another number 8 in the transfer window, to give that competition to Ramsey and McGinn, to level them up. Because I absolutely think they needed it. And you know what? Gerrard's the right man for McGinn, you think. One of the best midfielders to ever play in the Premier League. You'd think he's the man to take McGinn to that next level. But we haven't quite seen it yet, which is disappointing. But yeah, I think there's a player there. That's the disappointing thing. We haven't seen it for a long time now, which is really disappointing.
We spoke about it in our pre-season preview that we did when there was questions over Mings, and we said, who could it be? And I think they announced it as McGinn the following day, so I cut it out of the episode. But we all kind of said that Martinez would probably be a good shout because he will play every game, and then there's kind of no debate about it. He's not going to get subbed off and stuff like that. What do you think about it though? Is that the right choice as captain?
When it first happened, I was a bit like, oh, okay. I didn't really have a feeling towards it. I was like, oh, that's not very inspiring, but it's not going to, I'm not that bothered about it. The fact that he takes him off during games shows that McGinn can't hide, and I quite like that. But yeah, Martinez for me, I know people maybe don't, but I like a goalkeeper as a captain. I don't know, like you said, he's going to play every game. We know that. I quite like a goalkeeper as a captain. We all know what Emi Martinez is about. We all saw the clips against Man City where he was fist bumping the North Stand and stuff like that. I love that. And he's a brilliant leader. There's no doubt about that. But from a Mings perspective as well, taking the captaincy off him seems to have done him wonders, because I think when he's come in this season, he's been brilliant, absolutely fantastic. There's been talk about defensively problems this season, but I don't think that's down to him at all. I think Compton's had a poor start to the season. Luca Dean, not that much better. So Mings has been great, and that's shown by the fact that he dealt with Haaland. Yes, Haaland scored at the weekend, but on the whole, he did really well. So, yeah, I like it from a Mings perspective in terms of taking the captaincy off him. It seems to be going well, but giving it to McGinn, not totally sure.
Is there a possibility that McGinn can play that similar role that Ramsey played against Man City and have that licence to be a bit further forward and still have a proper three-man midfield behind him? Kamara, Louise and Dendoncker perhaps, and McGinn plays a slightly further forward role.
I think it's an option. I'd like to see it. I think we're blessed with loads of talent going forward, so I don't think it's ever going to happen because we've simply got loads of players who can do that role. Buendia and Coutinho are going to sit on the bench, and McGinn's going to play that sort of 10 role or slightly out wide like Ramsey did. I don't know. I would quite like to see it because, like I mentioned, Scotland, he scores goals, and when he's in the box, he usually finishes it. So we haven't seen that enough of Villa over the last few years. So I would like to see it. I just can't see it because of Buendia and Coutinho and the way Gerrard likes to play them as well in that similar role. So I don't know. We'll see. I probably can't see it.
There's a question from Matt Smith. Is there any other 37-year-old gems out there on a free? Claret and Ashley Young, quick. I'll tell you what, I said on the podcast after the game that once Cash went down injured and was coming off, I kind of thought, oh God, Ashley Young coming on. What's going to happen here? This could be a Mullering back here. Brilliant though. Really, really good. Surprisingly good for his age. He still looks as fit as he did at 20, 21, 22. And, that's a real option there now. And I think there was talk when Kane Hayden went out on loan that, that gives Cash no competition. And I don't think 37-year-old Ashley Young is going to give Cash competition, in the long run. And he's not going to play 30-odd games ahead of him. But I was concerned there wasn't that cover there. Obviously, Gilbert's totally out of the picture. So if Cash gets in, is it Contra at right back or something like that? But that Man City game is proof that Ashley Young can still do a job at 37, Connor.
He was absolutely brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. And I shared the same view. When he came on, I was like, oh, God.
I started kind of slumped in my seat and was like, oh, Ashley Young. No.
I was like, oh, game over. He could get absolutely murdered. But fair play. He just seems to have that new lease of life every single season. It's like, oh, is it going to be his last? And, when a couple of times when he came on last season, he was all right. But I was like, is he the answer? I'm not totally sure. But he's absolutely shut me up because he was absolutely fantastic. The one that stood out for me was when he absolutely shoulder barged De Bruyne to the floor, and De Bruyne is throwing his arms around when it's absolutely not a foul. We go up the other end and nearly score. That's what you want. He just seems to have that fight. And, when in a struggling Villa side, and I've said it all season, we don't have that fight or desire. He comes on and does that. It's just from a leadership point of view, the younger players looking up to him. That's what you want to be. So, yeah, brilliant. And if Cash is injured at the weekend against Leicester, I wouldn't turn my nose up at Ashley Young at all. I think he's, as long as he keeps that consistency, I wouldn't turn my nose up at all. He was fantastic.
Yeah, the only thing you would question with Young, is his age and his fitness. But that's clearly not an issue. He seems, like I said before, he seems as fit as he's ever been. So if Cash isn't available, if Ashley Young can have a performance like that against the best side in the league, one of the best sides in Europe, Leicester City away shouldn't be, it doesn't quite work like that, but Leicester City away shouldn't give him too many problems if he can do it against Manchester City. Scott says, I love the idea of Kamara and Dendoncker protecting the defence and setting off attacks. I think that Dendoncker signing, as much as he might not have been this flashy 50 million player that we were looking for, and possibly wasn't even on Villa's list to begin with, signed him on deadline day, was he even available. To have that option to change to a two-man midfield, double pivot of Kamara and Dendoncker, a bit of height, bit of physicality, stop attacks, give it to Buendia, Coutinho, Bailey, Watkins, Ings, Archer, whichever ones of those attacking, exciting players there is. that feels a little bit nice, doesn't it, to have those options rather than just going, right, we've got 3 midfielders, we've probably got 4 to pick from. McGinn and Ramsey do a similar role, and we look kind of flooded in midfield and don't look quite right. Having those 2 there as an option, whether we see it or not, that's good to have, isn't it? It's good to have those options in midfield now.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's a really good signing. I really do. I think it's a decent fee for what was it, 12, 13 million for an experienced Premier League international. I think you cannot turn your nose up at that at all.
Still a good age as well.
Oh yeah, fantastic. What is it, 27?
27, I think.
Approaching his prime, yeah. And I've heard mixed things from Wolves fans, but I just think he kind of got forced out of there in the end because, the way Wolves are going, they're signing player after player. They've already signed a couple of midfielders this summer. So I think he needs it, Dendoncker, as much as Villa need it, just to, give him that bit of a refresh. He probably won't move house, so he won't need that bedding in time, hopefully. I'm just speculating there, but that's what it looks like. So, no, I think it's a really good signing. And like you touched on, it's great to have the option of Kamara and somebody else because I think in the early parts of this season, Kamara was so isolated because the way that, McGinn and whoever else is playing in midfield seem to wander off. And we've all seen the average position maps where the players are absolutely all over the place. So it'd be nice to have that little bit more strength and security in midfield in terms of Dendoncker and Kamara. And then, like you said, it allows the further players forward to just unleash themselves and have fun a little bit rather than having to worry about, McGinn's playing left back or Luca Dean's on the left corner flag it's a little bit more security. So it's a great option to have. And yeah, like you said, he's not flashy, but we've been crying out for a bit of physicality in midfield for a long, long time. So I'm excited to see what he can do.
The comment here from Matt says that Dendoncker isn't Portuguese enough for Wolves. I don't know whether this is true or not, but let's just go that it is. Jamie says that Dendoncker's running stats are the 3rd best in the league.
That's what we need. We
need the legs in there to cover a bit of ground and just keep possession. When we were getting prepared for the Man City podcast, I was sitting there for the first half an hour. And the first half an hour, to be fair, I thought, I think we'll be lucky to even get to 0-0 at half time at this rate. But I was prepared to come on here and be like, I'm not quite sure this is working still. Because you can't keep the ball. That's such a problem for Villa. It's been a problem for a long time. You win possession back and it gets to John McGinn or Ramsey or whoever it might be, and they give it away within 2 seconds. I think there was a stage when Douglas Luiz did a little flick round somebody and it fell back to McGinn and he lost it instantly. It's just had some good work there from Luiz. We can't hold on to the ball and you just want someone in there who's going to break it up, move it on to the next player and keep possession. Opposition can't score if you've got the ball. It's boiling down to as simple as it is. But if you keep the ball better, you've got less chance. There's so many times where we're defending the box and Mings will head it away or whatever, and there's just no one there, and it's just back on you again until it eventually goes out for a throw-in or a goal kick, and you can reset again. You need someone to get on the ball and keep it and move play on. And hopefully, Dendoncker and Kamara can form a bit of a relationship, whether it's in a 2 or a 3. And then I think that third start is available from McGinn, Luiz or Ramsey, depending on what position we're playing. Just on Luiz quickly, that's not a specific question from the comments, but Rick said that Luiz and Kamara did that job on Saturday as in a bit of a double pivot in the middle with McGinn kind of running off the right-hand side. You happy that Luiz stayed, or would you have cashed in on deadline day?
No, I would have kept him. I would. It's not like we're desperate for money, is it? I'd have kept him. Yes, we might lose him for nothing next summer, but we can't afford to let a midfielder go when we're so desperate for another one on top of Luiz. Like, we don't need someone to replace him. We need somebody on top of him as well. So no, I think he's a great player. I think he's frustrated me in the past couple of years just because he can have that lapse of concentration and can do something stupid. I think that Bolton goal, on the edge of his own box. Yeah, that Bolton goal was down to him, I think, where he just fell over and he was a little bit weak. So if you've got Dendoncker and Kamara and Luiz plays potentially a little bit further forward, it gives him that license to go forward. Everybody's touched on it. He's not a 6, he's an 8. So I'd like to see him in that role. And don't get me wrong, he was absolutely fantastic against Man City at the weekend. But I just want to see him in that slightly different role and maybe playing 2 in that double pivot gives him that license too. But yeah, I'm 100% buzzing that we kept him because I think he's a really good player and the only way is up for him.
Abdul says, this is in reference to Dendoncker and Kamara playing as a 2. A good shout. That would allow Kamara to play in a slightly more advanced position in certain games and really use his passing ability. That said, who would you go for as an attacking trio behind the striker? So assuming it's a 4-2-3-1 and it's 1 up front, who plays in that 3 behind?
Don't know. It's a great question. I don't know, because Coutinho, there's no doubt about it, has been really disappointing. He has. There's no getting away from it. He's been disappointing for a while now. Buendia can hide in games as well, but I just think, look at Everton. He came on and he was brilliant, changed the game, scored a goal. I'd probably go Buendia over him, but I don't know where I'd put them. I mean, I don't really think it matters if right, left, centre. They all kind of drift anyway. I think I'd play Bailey. I'd absolutely play Bailey. I think he can be frustrating at times when he kind of tries to dribble with the ball and runs into people. But I just think he's that wild card. Is the only bit of pace that we've got, apart from Ollie Watkins in a way, but that pure, wide pace that we need. I think I'd definitely play Bailey, and what a finish at the weekend. He's got that sort of instinct to score a goal as well, which I think is always helpful.
Pace as well.
Exactly.
There was a stage where he came back from injury where he thought, he doesn't even look as quick as he did when he first joined. Like, his leg's going to kind of recover, or his hamstrings worn out. And I don't know, kind of digging out players, but we've had a few podcasts where we've called him that he's got cheese string hamstrings, or his bones made out of biscuits or whatever. We've joked about, but he looks fitter than ever. That's the biggest thing so far for me. He's looked good in games, he's looked good in pre-season, but he's got through 7, 8, 9 games now across pre-season and the start without getting injured, which is probably his longest spell with us without getting an injury. So that's the main thing for me. Keep him fit, keep him hungry. He looks kind of semi-happy, I suppose, when he's scoring a couple of goals. That's a dangerous asset to have. And the old cliche feels a bit like a new signing because he didn't feature much last year. Yeah,
and as long as he stays fit, that's the main thing. And I know it was against Bolton, but that's what we want to see from him. That goal where he gets it out wide, he drives in, cuts inside and scores. That's what we want to see more of him. And hopefully that goal at the weekend can be that sort of springboard for him. That last spot, though, I would definitely have Buendia and Bailey in there. I'd quite like to see Coutinho and Buendia start a game together. And I think if you've got Dendoncker and Kamara behind them, it gives us that license to have a bit more creativity going forward. So I'd quite like to see that. But I think, again, you've got to be adaptable in terms of who you're playing. Potentially, Coutinho can play at home, but Buendia can play away at, a Bournemouth, for example, and didn't quite go to plan that. But just, an example, away from home, tight pitch, slightly different sort of vibe of a game. Just it's good to have that flexibility. And I think we've definitely got that because, in the past few years, we haven't had that flexibility off the bench. But now we've got a big squad. You've got to be able to adapt. And that's down to Gerrard because, he hasn't shown it so far this season. But he's got to be able to adapt during games and against different opponents. So I don't know. It's a difficult one that going forward. Obviously, Watkins starts up top. I think he offers so much more than Danny Ings. Just the running. I think his hold up play as well at the weekend was absolutely phenomenal. I think he was quite underrated. I thought he was quite underrated at the weekend purely because of how good Ashley Young, Luis Kamara, and Mings was. I think he was quite underrated. I think he had a brilliant game. So. Yeah, difficult one, but it's good to have the options up front.
Another potential option for me, Ian, he said he'd start to play Archer and put Watkins on the left wing. Is that left spot? Buendia, Bailey. Buendia's a 10, I assume. Bailey on the right, Watkins on the left with, you could put Archer or Wings up front, I suppose. Is that a potential option or is that kind of shoehorning in a player that doesn't quite work? Although he was a winger before, so it's not like he's never played there.
It's an option. It's an option to have potentially during a game when, it might not be going well. You've got to change it up a bit, have more willing runners down the wings like Watkins is. But I just think Watkins offers way, way too much as a striker on his own to just shoehorn him in as a winger. And like you said, he was a winger, but he hasn't been for a few years now. So I just want to see him up top or potentially 2 up top with Archer because we know that Watkins goes out wide so much and then sort of what's in the middle then because we don't have midfielders who enter the box late and score plenty of goals. I've already said that. McGinn doesn't score enough. Luis doesn't score enough. Ramsey has struggled in the last few months. So I think if you've got Watkins, and Archer up top together, Watkins running into the channels and then Archer just lurking around the box like he loves to do, that's an option to have. But I wouldn't like to see Watkins out wide just in general. That's not for me.
Yeah, the stat that kind of took me by surprise, which shouldn't really because it's pretty self-explanatory, but that was Ramsey's second assist for us and Bailey's second goal against Man City. Wow. That's the second goal and second assist. So you think, Ramsey's probably got 2 or 3 assists and Bailey's probably scored a couple of goals, but only 1 assist and 1 goal before Saturday. Quiz question, do you remember what those games were, where those previous stats came from?
That was Bailey's second goal for Villa.
That's what I saw elsewhere, and I'm taking that as fact.
Well, that must be in the league because he scored a goal.
Yeah.
The Everton, obviously the Everton one at home. I'm going to try and delay the Ramsey assist.
It was something like his first goal in 320 days or something in the league, because obviously it was September last year, wasn't it, I think?
Did Ramsey's assist for Coutinho count in the Man United 2-2 at the start of this year?
That's the one. That's the one I've got, when Coutinho come off the bench and Ramsey set him up for that, So Ramsey assists against Manchester clubs and Leon Bailey can only score goals in September or in the first 2 games of the season. It might have been August, I can't remember. On Archer then, are you happy he stuck around, or would you have preferred to see him go out on loan and score 20 goals in the Championship?
I'd be happy if he, I'm happy that he stayed as long as he gets more minutes. I think the Bolton thing is a little bit difficult. I personally would have started him, but I can see what Gerrard was doing because that was at such a difficult time that he just wanted to get the first team together and, get them bonding and get them scoring a few goals and getting a win. So I can kind of see why he did it, but I want to see Archer more. I really, really do. I think, yes, I just want to see him score goals because we know he can. I can kind of see why they've done it because we know he can do it in the Championship. He doesn't need to prove himself in the Championship now. He's done it. So it doesn't matter who you're scoring against. If you can finish, you can finish. So I just want to see him get more minutes. But while Watkins is doing well and we only play one up top, I think it's going to be difficult for him, unfortunately. But getting 5 minutes here and 4 minutes there isn't really going to help. So I just want to see Gerrard, like I said, be adaptable and potentially just start him in a game. Just why not? Why not? We know he can do it. So, yeah, I want to see more of him. I really do.
Question from Mark. He says, would you play Buendia over Coutinho next 6 points from Leicester away and Southampton at home? Need 6 points, I assume that's supposed to be. Buendia or Coutinho? Have you got a preference? I bet you've got one of them on the back of your shirt, haven't you?
No, I haven't actually. I haven't. No, I'd go Buendia because I think Coutinho has been that disappointing. I think I'd bring him off the bench last 25, 30 minutes just to give him that. So when he's fresh, when players are tiring, I quite like to see that. But I just think Buendia's offered more. He has. And, when he's come on or when he started, he has offered more. And, the stat about Coutinho not being involved in a goal for however many game it is, it's not good enough for me. I think he's got to level up for sure. He's posted all these pictures on Instagram this week of him working in his garden and stuff. But proof's in the pudding, mate, when you're playing on the pitch. So far, yeah, I'd play Buendia on Saturday against Leicester and I would. And if he's not, performing, you've got Coutinho there. So it's great to have an option. But so far, I think Buendia's ahead of him.
Quick on Bednarek. Not really spoken about him. Will Bednarek replace Konsa at some point, or has he been signed to have an option at a back three? Yeah, back three is something that we've kind of not really talked about much. Obviously, Dendoncker can cover in a back three as well, like he did with Wolves. So you could have Mings, Chambers and Dendoncker, or Mings, Konsa, Bednarek. The Bednarek signing is, I won't say a panic, but it's a dead on day. Backup centre half from Southampton who also won't playing him, so I don't expect him to come in and be our best centre half, but a bit of height, bit of physicality, something different. Player who want to come and kind of prove a point. What do you make of that whole centre back department now? Obviously, the Carlos injury is a shame, but there's still 3 or 4 good players there.
Yeah, I don't mind it at all. I think a lot of people were kind of moaning at the Bednarek signing because it's not. Yeah, I agree. It's not very inspiring, but it does the job. Carlos, he's going to be back at some point. He's not gone forever. So. As a loan potential to buy, I don't mind it at all. I can't claim to have watched loads of him, apart from the 9-0 loss against Man United, I seem to remember. So that's not a great starting point. But no, I don't mind it. He's got plenty of appearances in the Premier League, plenty of caps for Poland, so he's not going to be a bad player. So I think it's a decent option to have. And if, at the moment, it seems to be Konsa and Mings who are the top 2 choices. So I don't mind it at all. If he has to come in, I wouldn't worry too much. But yeah, it's standard signing. It's nice to bolster up that centre back department a lot because I was a little bit concerned when Hawes left and we didn't seem to. Loads of people were talking about centre back, but it just wasn't happening. So I was a little bit worried that we were only going to be left with 3 centre backs, but 4 centre backs, all of a similar ability. I don't mind it.
We've done a half an hour Q&A here, and the kind of optimism from the Man City result means that there's been no questions about Steven Gerrard, which is. For me, a relief. It's nice not to be, are you Gerrard out? It's should he go? Who replaces him? And it was relentless in the couple of weeks before Man City. And we'll touch on it quickly. There's one that's just popped up from Colin Gibbs. He says, do you think Michael Beale was the brains behind the team last season? And that's why we've had a slow start to this season. So before we get into Gerrard specifically, what do you make of that kind of narrative that Michael Beale was the main guy and that's why we're struggling?
I could kind of see it, but then again, we weren't great last season anyway. We came 14th, so it's not like we came 8th last season. We were playing mesmerising football. He's gone, and now we're terrible. It's not like that. So I can kind of see it, but then again, not really. I don't know. I think I saw a lot of Rangers fans. When Beale left, I saw a lot of Rangers fans saying, "Oh, the brains behind Gerrard has gone to QPR." So I was a little bit concerned with that, and there might be truth behind it, but I'm not going to read too much into it because we weren't great last season anyway. So I can't read too much into it, to be honest.
Yeah, that's exactly how I feel. I think it's kind of an easy narrative, really, and it's something that will be picked up by mainstream media that he's lost his right-hand man, and that's going to be a big hit and gives Gerrard a bit of an excuse, really. But it's no excuses. That's what Gerrard has banged on about before. So I'm not going to give him one, basically, because you've got to adapt. You've bought Neil Critchley in, who is a promising manager at Blackpool. He should be good enough to replace whatever you've lost in Beale. I know you've got to build up a rapport with somebody new, but no excuses, like I said. Just on Gerrard, then I did say we'd talk about it. Lots of stuff about his future, people being worried about him. Is he the right man? Did we make the wrong decision? Will he turn it around? I asked Matt on the podcast before Man City, have you seen anything, or have you seen enough to think Gerrard will turn it around? And his answer to that was no. Asked him again after Man City, and he said a more kind of encouraging, perhaps or maybe. Well, not quite a yes, but certainly not a no either. Have you seen enough from Steven Gerrard in his last 20 games, or in 2022, let's say, because that's where the struggles have been. We all know about the stat that it's 3 wins in 17 or whatever it is at this point. Have you seen enough to think that Steven Gerrard will be the man to turn it around for Villa?
I don't think I've seen enough. No, I don't think I've seen enough at all. I think, Man City was encouraging, but that's one game. I think if you take the last 10, 15, 2022 as a whole, whatever it is, it hasn't been good enough, and there's no getting away from that. And I think you've got to wait for another 3, 4, 5 games in the future now before you can say for concrete definite that he has turned it around, and there is signs there that he has. But I just think after one decent result, I don't think there's enough there. And pre-Man City, I was really struggling with Gerrard. I was struggling to get on board because I simply hadn't seen anything, and we looked that hopeless. I think we all said it. Look, you're going into games, you can take it if we're giving it a good go and there's a definite system there and we're trying to play good football, but there was absolutely nothing there. That Bournemouth game and that Crystal Palace game were absolutely horrendous, just because there's no organisation, players, just little things as well, like even things that aren't Gerrard's fault, just bad touches, bad passes, and players not looking like they know what they're doing. I've seen way too much of that, unfortunately, to sway my decision after one game. So the skeptics are still there. I'm still worried about it. I am, because you've got to follow it up now. You can't just say, oh, it's all right now after one game. You absolutely can't do that. So I don't know. There's still worries there for me. There is, but I just hope, like I said earlier, that Man City is a turning point. I want Gerrard to do well. I don't hate him personally or anything like that. I really want him to do well because he's the Aston Villa manager. I don't care who's in the hot seat. I want them to do well. I don't care. So I don't know. I want him to do well, but from what I've seen so far, I feel like we've regressed from the start of, when he first came in. To take Man City out of the equation, I think we've gone backwards. So I don't know. I just hope he can turn it around. I really do. Like I said, I want him to do well. I really, really do. Yeah,
I totally agree with what you just said. You support the Aston Villa manager, whoever that might be. And either there's 2 scenarios: Steven Gerrard turns it around and we get better, or he's sacked and his replacement hopefully turns us around and we get better. But there's no kind of proof that works either. You might have that little bounce like we did after sacking Smith, but it still doesn't mean you're going to keep going up and up. What would you need to see from the next 10 games, 15 games, 3 games, however it might be? What do you actually need to physically see and say, maybe a checklist, he needs to do this, he needs to do that, to make you go, yeah, when I ask you again, has Gerrard done enough to turn us around to make you say yes? I think
I want to see what we saw when he first came in. I want to see us be hard to beat, defensively good. We went to Anfield when he first came in. We were brilliant. Yes, we lost to a slightly controversial penalty. Man City came to Villa Park. We ran them close. I think we need to. That running stat really bugs me, where we've run the least in the league. That is the absolute basics. There's absolutely no excuse for that at all. So just more effort, because it looks like we haven't been putting in enough at all. Like that Crystal Palace game, they haven't got better players than us at all. They haven't got better players than us. So we should be matching them for effort. And, if they score a couple of decent goals, fair play to them. But we shouldn't be being outrun or outforced at all. So that as well, hard to beat. A clean sheet would be nice. And hopefully those are the ingredients to Gerrard turning it around.
Yeah, there's still going to be some people that like it. The one I just put up for me in there, if we lose the next 2 games, I think he'll get sacked. I mean, we're on that kind of knife edge that it was one good performance against Man City. If you then follow up with 1 win from the next 4, there's still going to be people going, this isn't quite good enough for where Villa want to get to. So do we have to make a decision? I think from a points perspective, are you bang on there with what you just said about more effort and commitment and stuff like that? If you look at those next 4 games and think, if we'd have got, I say, 9 points from these first 6, I'll be looking at that next 4 going, there's another 9 points available there. Another 12 points potentially. Whereas I'm now looking at it going, 6 is probably just about okay. So like you said, 2 points a game, maybe 6 or 7. But if we'd had a decent start, you'd be targeting people like Leeds and Forest as people that you want to leapfrog and get above, and so you kind of have to win. So yeah, I think from a points perspective, you'd want at least 6 or 7 points from those next 4. If you get 9, better. Obviously, it shows a sign that you have turned a corner and there is something there, and you can build something that's a real statement to go out and go, right, we've had a tricky start, but now we've got 9 points from 12, and we're starting to turn things around.
I think it's up to Gerrard to get the best out of the players. At the end of the day, that's his job, and we've got. I said it in my Premier League predictions at the start of the season that outside of that top 6, 7, 8, we've who's got a better squad than Aston Villa? You look at West Ham, potentially Leicester. maybe they've lost a lot of players, so probably not now. Newcastle, probably not. Wolves, don't know. So it's up to the manager to get the best out of this very, very good squad that we've got. And if Gerrard can't do that, then, hopefully there's a manager out there that can, because it's been long enough now, hasn't it? Where we've been nearly, it's next season. Just give him a pre-season, give him a transfer window. It seems like we've been in that cycle for so long. So it's now. We've got to do it now. And I think you're right off the first 5 games this season. Man City, that's when the season started. We go again. We beat Leicester. We beat Southampton. International break. That's your mini pre-season. We go again. That's the mentality you've got to have. Forget about it. It happened. Can't change it now. We've got to go again. So I don't know. We'll see. I'm positive. I am positive. I was absolutely buzzing after that Man City game, and hopefully that momentum can just stay there with me, with the fans, with the team. And the atmosphere was brilliant. I've got to touch on it. The atmosphere at Villa Park was something that I haven't seen for years. Since the Everton game that everyone talks about, it hasn't been that good for a long time. And that's why it says, look, if you give us that fight and you go toe-to-toe with these world-class players from Man City, we'll give it back. As fans, we'll give it back. And that just kind of spurs them on even more. So I don't know. I am positive. I'm excited for Leicester. I'm buzzing to get over there, and hopefully we can get the 3 points that we need.
Yeah, spot on. Love that. That's my sentiments exactly as well. I just want Villa to win games. That's a basic thing, isn't it? We'll start winning some games and we'll all be happy. Max, thank you very much for your time this afternoon, and thanks to the Facebook Live audience for tuning in and basically feeding the show with questions. We do appreciate it. I prepared 3 questions, so without the audience watching along, this would have been a very short podcast. We've done 45 minutes, so Max, thank you for your time. If you've enjoyed watching this podcast, please subscribe, like the video, all those usual things. I should be getting you to do this. You're the YouTube expert. If you want to ask a question for a future episode, you can go down into the comments, and maybe we'll get Max on once a month or something like that, and we'll have a bit of a catch up and see how Villa are doing at those stages. Thanks everyone for watching, and we'll see you again very soon. Cheers, Max. Thank you for listening to Claret and Blue, an Aston Villa podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, then please do let us know. We love hearing your feedback. We'll be back soon with another episode, but until then, up the Villa.